Hello, the name is Regis Kilbin, and the game is Here's the Storm. Today we're going to be talking about the ultimate Rehgar build, as I like to call it. This is my favorite Rehgar build, and I think it offers the most general utility and flexibility for Rehgar players of all levels. The goal with the ultimate Rehgar build is to have pretty strong healing, a lot of mobility and flexibility in the mid game where you can run around and heal people on the fly and get to objectives in no time. But also, it has a little bit of extra punch in the damage department, allowing you to secure kills for your team. So this is the Rehgar build that makes Rehgar Rehgar. Instead of pigeonholing him as a complete healer, it gives him that movement and aggression that Rehgar truly deserves. So without further ado, let's get into the talents for the ultimate Rehgar build. Now, do keep in mind this is my ultimate and top build for Rehgar. It doesn't mean it's the best always and best ever, and it doesn't mean it's the most popular among players. This is just my recommendation for the most generally useful and helpful Rehgar build. Little about me, I'm a level 20 Rehgar with a 67% win percentage or so overall in quick match and a Hero League with Rehgar, and that's mostly solo queue, so if you play this build well, you can definitely rack up some wins. So, starting with the level 1 talent, we're going to open with Spirit Walker's Grace. Reduces chain heals mana cost from 70 to 45. So this takes your Q ability, which is really your primary general use heal, which heals 3 total people, and it reduces its cost from 70 to 45. That's a 25 mana reduction, which is about 30% or so. So it's a significant impact on your heal, particularly in the early game. I mean, think if you cast your heal 3 times at a normal mana cost, that's going to cost 210 mana. So if you cast your heal 3 times at that reduced mana cost, it's 135. So you can get almost 2 extra heals for the same amount of mana, which is really, really impactful in early game objective fights. So it can make a huge difference. It doesn't scale particularly well in the late game as you have more mana, but it basically means you'll never have to return to base when you combine it with our next talent. So other options here, Healing Totem will certainly increase your overall healing output potential, like max heals, but it won't be as often and it won't be as meaningful as an extra Spirit Walker's Grace in that low mana moment early in the game. Empowering Charge can be good if you're in a damage comp with some auto attackers, but generally it's not that great. Colossal Totem offers you more crowd control, but we don't necessarily need that with Rehgar right now. So moving on to level 4, we're going to go with Feral Heart. Increases health and mana regeneration by 75% while in Ghost Wolf form. So anytime as Rehgar that you're in your Ghost Wolf form, you're going to be increasing your mana and health regen at almost twice the rate. It used to be exactly twice the rate, but it was nerfed not too long ago. But it's still good, and the reason this talent is good is because it works so efficiently and so well that you basically never run out of mana as Rehgar in the early game. As long as you're not casting your cooldowns in some ridiculous fashion, you can kind of watch your mana is coming back even faster in Wolf. Look at it tick by in Wolf. Wow. It's a little slower, a little slower, a little slower. Now watch it. Let's see. Watch it jump. Watch it jump. Boom. So it's a noticeable impact. And as long as you stay in Wolf regularly, which you should be doing anyways, Rehgar, you're almost never going to be out of mana. You might have to go back to base at one point in a particularly long fight or something like that. But generally this allows you to just run around the map, heal people, gank people, throw down a shield on a totem or a wave to help give some clear, get from objective to objective in no time. The utility of this talent is just incredibly high, and it's good in the late game. It's good particularly good in the mid game, and it's even good at level 4 right when you get it. So don't pass up on Feral Heart. These other talents have, in my mind, far less utility and do very specific things, which are far too restrictive in their applications. So stick with Feral Heart here. Level 7, we're going to go with Earth Shield. Lightning Shield also gives the ally a shield that absorbs 435 damage over 3 seconds. So Lightning Shield normally just gives you an area of effect attack that encircles your hero and does damage to anything close. But with this talent, it also gives you a 435 point shield, which you'll see that white bar right there. It's about 2 mini bars, which is almost 500 damage, of course. That is about 10% on Rehgar, which isn't huge, but it can add up, and you're going to be casting Lightning Shield anyway for the extra damage it gives, so why not buff it if you can? It gives every character, like, roughly 10%, plus or minus a few percentage points of extra health, which means a lot against a burst damage composition, so it's a good talent to have. Of course, there will be games where Cleanse you have to pick, particularly against something like a Murky with Octograb. So in certain compositions, you can't avoid going with Cleanse, and it's generally a good talent as well. Farsight even can have some uses against Stealthies and so on. Forward Momentum, generally you're going to avoid. You don't care too much about putting out a ton of damage as Rehgar, just a lot of damage right when it counts, but not consistently over time. So Earth Shield's going to give you the most reliability and utility here, but do keep in mind in Cleanse for those games that you absolutely need it. But otherwise, Earth Shield is your best bet. Now, for level 10, we're going to go with Ancestral Healing. After a short delay, heal an allied hero for 3,400 health. Now, Rehgar has about 4,500 here, so you can see it's about a 80% heal, something like that. Against everything except a tank, Ancestral Healing is going to heal them almost to full health. So it is a huge heal. You've seen it in action. You can save people's life. You can turn team fights. Its impact is immeasurable. It is, frankly, the best heal in the game as far as single target heals are concerned. And it helps you fulfill your support role. Bloodlust, for a general Rehgar build, we don't want Bloodlust. If you're like an off healer or get stuck in a quick match with another healer, Bloodlust might be good now and then. But Ancestral Healing is just simply too good to pass up. Level 13, this is where my ultimate Rehgar build is probably going to diverge from traditional recommendations and what you might see on talent guides and so on and so forth. I am going to suggest you pick Feral Lunge. While in Ghost Wolf, you lunge a short distance towards your attack target. The damage bonus for basic attacks in Ghost Wolf is increased from 100% to 200%. So normally when you attack someone in Ghost Wolf form, you're going to do 100% damage. But it's already upgraded, and we did 624 damage at level 20, which is pretty meaningful, especially when it's so good at chasing down weakened targets, because you do that little lunge at the end right there, and it's hard for people to get away. And then you're hitting them with big damage. So Feral Lunge is one of the best abilities in the game at securing kills for people who are running away from a team fight. So when you're Rehgar, you can drop an E to slow them down if you need to. You can Feral Lunge as well to gain ground. So you're really, really good at chasing people down. And I hate to lose that utility just to make you a slightly better healer, because most people at this talent tier will pick Healing Surge instead, which increases your chain heal by 25% and adds it to another target, which is kind of like a 33% increase relatively, which is impactful. It's a big talent. It's a really good choice. If you absolutely need the healing, if you're up against like a heavy area of effect damage composition with like a Jaina or a Kale, this might be worth it. It might be your talent of choice. But my argument is, if you're playing Rehgar, why pass up one of his most defining attributes, which is being good at chasing people down and securing kills as a melee support with some survivability that can get in and get back out quickly and safely? Don't throw away the opportunity to turn team fights by getting that backline target finished off. And that's what Feral Lunge allows you to do. If you want to be a straight up healer as Rehgar, you can. But there are other people who are really good at healing, like Malfurion, for instance, or Uther. So you could play them. If you're playing Rehgar, take advantage of Rehgar and stick with Feral Lunge, unless you absolutely have to take Healing Surge. So that said, let's move on to our level 16 talent. Here we are going to go back to healing, which is with Tidal Waves. Reduces chain heals cooldown by 3 seconds if it heals 3 heroes. Now, in the past, before Blood for Blood was nerfed relatively recently, I would take Blood for Blood here because it was even better at helping you secure those kills. But since Blood for Blood's damage was taken down from 15% to 10%, and it's more about healing, it's almost kind of a sustain or defensive ability instead of an offensive one, it loses its edge right here at this talent tier. Earthgrass Totem is also really good because it's a devastating 90% slow for 1 second, but given all the other tools you have to lock people down, I think it's a little bit overkill. Whereas Tidal Waves does make you a better healer, and it makes you a more consistent healer more often, because you're going to take your cooldown down from 9 seconds to 6 seconds pretty often. Because in most late game team fights by level 16, you are going to hit at least 3 people with your chain heal. So it can do a lot of work, and basically makes you heal 33% more often. So chain or tidal waves is really hard to pass up here. It helps you build out your heal repertoire, and you're not sacrificing anything else on this talent tier to give it up. So that makes sense. And finally, at level 20, we are going to go with Storm Shield. Activate to give all nearby allied heroes a shield for 20% of their maximum health for 3 seconds. So this is another shielding ability that has some synergy here with Lightning Shield, but it works for the whole team. Essentially gives you a bigger health pool in any given team fight that's about to arrive. So since Rehgar's kind of a reactive healer in many ways, especially with ancestral healing, it can help to give yourself a little bit more leeway and a little bit more time to react to damage that's coming out on your team. And that's essentially what Storm Shield will allow you to do. You can kind of make a big save in a team fight that's wearing your teammates down, or you can kind of prep a team fight or a siege push or even a boss by giving all your teammates a little extra health and a little extra breathing room than they'd otherwise have. Seers Blessing, a lot of people are trapped into this talent since it's an upgrade to your heroic. It increases your ancestral healing by 50% on the base heal, which makes it a 1500 and 1700 makes it a 5100 point heal, which you'll notice is more health than Rehgar has, and it's more health than most heroes have. So that's healing overkill for everyone except your tanks. And then the allies near the target are healed for 25%. That means they're going to be healed for, 34 divided by 4, 7, about 850 health, which is not nothing, but it's barely more than a chain heal, and it's very hard to hit because they have to be near the ancestral healing target. So usually the person you're healing with ancestral healing is either going to be up in the other team, or back and running away, or disengaging. So not everybody's going to be around them all the time. So it's hard to make this talent work very well. Storm Shield has a shorter cooldown because it's every 45 seconds instead of 70 seconds with your normal heroic. It's easier to hit and line up. And frankly, frankly, it's going to do more for you more often. So Storm Shield here is hard to pass up. And that sums it up for the ultimate Rehgar build. I'm going to run through those talents one more time. That's Spirit Walker's Grace, Feral Heart, Earth Shield, Ancestral Healing, Feral Lunge, Tidal Waves, and Storm Shield. So that build is going to allow you to do a lot of different things as Rehgar. It's one of the most fun and active and engaging builds, I think, in the entire game, because you're always going to be able to just run in and do stuff and impact the game in major ways without ever really returning to base or laying off or backing down. And that's exactly how someone like Rehgar should be played. He's my favorite hero, and this is my favorite build, and I think you'll have a lot of success with it. So I hope you do. I hope you try it out, and I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. Thanks for your time, and game on.